Chapter 4966. Lin Qianqian thought Di Xiaofeng was just pretending and didn't expect him to make such a decision. It was completely beyond her expectations. If we didn't react quickly, we would have been exposed. The disciples couldn't help but sigh. Even thinking back, they felt that it was too dangerous just now. Once they were exposed, everything would be troublesome. I also came up with this idea on the spur of the moment, but isn't the effect very good? Di Xiaofeng chuckled. His handsome face was filled with a warm smile as if everything was under his control. By the way, where did you hide the immortal spirit herb? Why didn't we find it just now? Lin Taxing's black eyes were filled with astonishment. After Dai Haoan's storage ring was snatched away by Jun Lingxuan, Di Xiaofeng collected all the immortal spirit herbs on everyone's bodies. He didn't see Di Xiaofeng put it anywhere else, so how could it disappear? I hid it. Di Xiaofeng smiled mysteriously. Don't worry, it won't be lost. Seeing this, Lin Taxing's eyes flashed with surprise, but he didn't ask any more questions. It didn't matter as long as it wasn't lost. Speaking of which, it was all thanks to Hong Zhuang's cleverness. Otherwise, no matter how good our performance was, we might have been defeated by Xiao Sou in the end. Lin Qianqian narrowed her eyes and her white jade-like face was filled with disgust. I've never seen Xiao Sou go all out to help others before. She really didn't hold back when dealing with us. She's really amazing. As soon as she said this, everyone's expression was the same. Now, Xiao Sou was as disgusting as Jun Lingxuan in their eyes. By the way, Xiaofeng. Dai Haoan looked at Di Xiaofeng. Do you think Qiu Baixin will speak up for us? I don't know. Di Xiaofeng shrugged. You don't know? Dai Haoan was stunned. Then why did you? It doesn't matter if he'll help us or not. As long as he spreads the seeds of doubt, that's enough. Di Xiaofeng's face was full of confidence. Everyone already has doubts about this kind of thing. Qiu Baixin doesn't have any relationship with us, but he said this kind of information. It's the easiest way to convince others. As long as everyone has doubts, it will be easy to overturn Jun Lingxuan's words. Following Di Xiaofeng's words, all the disciples' eyes were filled with relief and relief. In the previous situation, everyone couldn't help but be nervous. They were worried that everyone would gang up on them, but now that Di Xiaofeng said this, everyone was relieved. At the very least, the situation had improved a lot. It's best if we can find the other cultivators in the clan as soon as possible. Di Baichen's deep eyes were filled with worry. Now that this news has spread, once the family's disciples are left alone, it is very likely that they will encounter trouble. Indeed. Lin Taxing couldn't help but worry. We must find them as soon as possible. I really want to kill Jun Lingxuan. This guy is really too hateful. After discussing for a while, everyone continued to move forward in the direction of Jun Lingxuan. In the current situation, they weren't afraid for the time being. 3 days later, a team appeared in everyone's sight. After seeing the other party, Di Xiaofeng's eyes lit up. He smiled and said, Murong. Chapter 4967. I've finally met you. Murong Jing quickly walked to Di Xiaofeng's side. The joy on his face turned into nervousness and worry. Jun Lingxuan is spreading rumors everywhere. Do you know about it? Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly, his magnetic voice heavy. I already know. You know, but you still dare to come here so unscrupulously? Murong Jing was a little surprised. His slightly fast speed revealed his anxiousness. The rumors are extremely unfavorable to you. I've found many teams looking for you on my way here. The temptation of treasures like the immortal spirit grass is too great. Now you've become a delicious cake in everyone's eyes. Everyone wants a bite. Looking at Murong Jing's worried and nervous appearance, a trace of warmth appeared in the eyes of the Di family. Murong Jing and Di Xiaofeng's relationship was really extraordinary. Even when he heard about treasures like the immortal spirit grass, it didn't attract him at all. I've already seen a few teams before, but I've also explained. They believed it. Murong Jing was puzzled. Logically speaking, at this time, no matter what Di Xiaofeng and the others said, it should be useless. Hong Zhuang used the power of light, plus we let them check the storage rings. Hearing this, Murong Jing understood and immediately let out a sigh of relief. I see, you guys are really brave, but as long as people start to believe you, that's a good thing. What did you find out? Tell me in detail. Along the way, although they had met some people, no one had told them the specific situation. Di Xiaofeng and the others were helpless about this. Now that they met Murong Jing, it was undoubtedly the best opportunity to understand. Murong Jing naturally didn't hide anything and immediately explained the situation in detail. The Jun family, Xiao family, and Nangong family have already joined forces. They even joined forces with the Chu family. The cultivators of these four families added together are already quite a number. Now they've unified their statements and confirmed that the immortal spirit grass is with you, and they're also intentionally looking for you. Once they find you, you'll understand. Jun Lingxuan really has a good idea. Di Xiaofeng coldly snorted. Does he think that by joining forces with others, he can defeat us? In my opinion, Jun Lingxuan must have promised them a lot of benefits. Lin Taxing's face was gloomy. This guy likes to use some dirty tricks the most. Not only that, I also heard that they're now looking everywhere for the disciples of your two families. I'm afraid they want to use them to force you guys. As Murong Jing's voice fell, everyone's face. Regarding this point, Murong Jing's faces, the Nangong family's name, the Nangong family. Nangong Yuqing and the others aren't good people. Just let them die in the ruins. No matter what, we can't let their plan succeed this time. I have to kill these guys. Xiaofeng. Everyone's eyes turned red from anger. Their faces were filled with anger that could topple mountains and overturn seas. The raging anger accumulated in their chests seemed to be able to incinerate everything. Chapter 4968. After some discussion, everyone came to a decision. Jun Lingxuan and the others are just ahead. I came here specifically to find you. Murong Jing's handsome eyes were full of concern. I know there's a relatively hidden shelter nearby. Why don't you stay there for the time being and we'll help you gather some information first. After we figure out the situation, you can think of a way to act. How about it? Murong Jing paused, then emphasized, it's too dangerous to act rashly now. Di Xiaofeng nodded, his dark blue eyes filled with a trace of haze and seriousness. Don't worry, I'll figure out their numbers. No matter what, I'm on your side. Murong Jing reached out and hammered Di Xiaofeng's chest, his handsome and gentle face filled with determination and trust. The situation is so unfavorable to us now and you still want to stand on our side? Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but ask. In this situation, many people would probably want to keep a distance from them. Ever since their relationship with the Xiao family was bad, he had experienced many things like this. Stinking brat. Murong Jing couldn't help but curse. Are you looking down on yourself or me? I'm still hoping that you can help me when I'm in trouble. What's the point of saying all this now? Anyway, you're my brother. Whoever dares to touch you is touching me. There's no room for discussion. Di Xiaofeng looked deeply at Murong Jing, and time seemed to stop just like that. A warm smile that was like a spring breeze slowly blossomed on the corners of his lips, making his already picturesque handsome face even more outstanding and enchanting. Hey, why are you looking at me like that? Murong Jing glanced at him. I like women. Hearing Murong Jing's words, Lin Qianqian and the others couldn't help but chuckle, diluting the originally mushy but friendly atmosphere a bit. Don't worry, I'm not interested in men either. Di Xiaofeng rolled his eyes and kicked Murong Jing. Hurry up and lead the way. The cultivators of the Murong family also had joyful smiles on their faces. They also knew about the relationship between Di Xiaofeng and Murong Jing. No matter what decision the young master made, they would support him. Under Murong Jing's lead, Bailey Hongshuang's group arrived at a very secluded cave. The entrance to the cave was very small, but after entering, the area was surprisingly large. This is a cave that I found a few days ago. There shouldn't be anyone else who has found it yet. You guys can rest here for the time being. We'll go out and ask around. Murong Jing's expression was calm. I will first go and understand their numbers and strength. If there is a gap, I will think of a way to find a few more helpers. Under such circumstances, you must have the ability to resist. All right. Murong Jing immediately led the group of people and left without further ado. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were also cultivating in the cave, adjusting themselves to the best condition. Because it wasn't far from where Jun Lingxuan and the others were, it only took Murong Jing half a day to return. However, when he returned, his expression was extremely ugly. What bad news? Emperor Xiaofeng immediately stood up, his voice filled with nervousness. Chapter 4969. Following Murong Jing's narration, the crowd finally understood the situation. However, their expressions turned extremely ugly. Are you saying that Xiren and Yingying have fallen into their hands? Di Beichen's voice suddenly rang out. His godlike face was filled with anxiety and fury. That's what I heard. Murong Jing nodded, then continued, however, I didn't see it with my own eyes. It's just the news that Jun Lingxuan spread. Whether or not this is news that he deliberately spread to lure you over, we can't tell for now. Until now, we still haven't received any news about Xiren and Yingying. Bailey Hongzhuang furrowed her brows. Her gaze was deep and complicated. They had been in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm for quite some time, but until now, they still haven't received any news about Yingying and Xiren. She had always been worried about this. Now that Jun Lingxuan had spread such news, they really couldn't tell whether it was true or false. Not only that, it said that a few people from your two families have also fallen into their hands. They've spread the news that if you don't show up for a day, they'll kill one person. That's noon. Now, many people have gathered at their location. Everyone is waiting to see if you'll show up. Bastard! Lin Taxing cursed. This Jun Lingxuan is simply a beast. Motherfucker, they can even think of such a method. How disgusting! For a moment, the group of disciples could not help but curse. As cultivators, they were used to seeing death. However, such a method was simply too inhumane. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze darkened. She was not surprised that Jun Lingxuan would use such a method to get along. Not for any other reason, but because that evil cultivator was also a bloodthirsty person. She had used such a vicious method to cultivate, but Jun Lingxuan had continued to provide for her. It could be seen that Jun Lingxuan had done such things many times. It was just that not many people knew about it. This time, his actions had completely revealed his vicious nature, which was an eye-opener for everyone. Jun Lingxuan and the others have indeed gone overboard. Murong Jing's face was ashen. I see that although the other cultivators are waiting to watch, they also have some complaints about this matter. It seems that we must go over tomorrow. Di Xiaofeng slowly said. Di Beichen and the others nodded. Regardless of whether Jun Lingxuan's news was true or false, even if there was only a 1 in a million possibility, they had to go. Because they weren't cowards, and they couldn't watch as their clan's disciples were tortured and killed like this. They might have set a trap. The cultivators from the Murong family could not help but remind. I understand, Di Xiaofeng nodded his head, but no matter what, we have to go over tomorrow. Seeing the firm look of Di Xiaofeng and the others, Murong Jing didn't say anything else. In fact, if it were him, he would have made the same choice. Since you've decided, let's go together tomorrow. On the other side, Xiren and Shangguan Yingying were hurrying on their way. Both of their faces were filled with anger. Chapter 4970. As brothers for so many years, Xiren knew how important he was in Di Beichen's heart. They were both people who would risk their lives for each other. Even if he were in Di Beichen's shoes, he would definitely rush over regardless of his own safety. Therefore, he knew that Di Beichen would definitely go over. Our luck is really... Shangguan Yingying sighed. We've been searching for so long, but we still haven't found Beichen and the others. I'm really speechless. Don't worry. Since Jun Lingxuan said so, Beichen and the others should be nearby. As long as we show up there tomorrow, we should be able to find Beichen and the others. Xiren's eyes were filled with wisdom. After thinking for a while, he had already figured out the crux of the matter. However, we can't be too obvious right now. At least, we can't be discovered by Jun Lingxuan and the others. Shangguan Yingying nodded slightly. Then let's think of a way to conceal ourselves. Although everyone judges people based on their auras, we've always kept a low profile. There shouldn't be many people who can recognize our auras, right? Let's not get too close for now. Let's just walk around. Maybe we can find Bewitching and the others. The next day, the noon sun was the strongest. It shone on the ground with heat. Cultivators from the Jun family, the Shao family, the Nangong family, and the Chu family were gathered here. In their hands were Dijai's and 2 other cultivators from the Lin family. It's already noon, and the Di family still hasn't shown up. It seems that they're determined to be cowards. Jun Lingshuan's lips curled into a mocking smile. However, his eyes were filled with coldness and unwillingness. He had thought of so many ways to lure Di Bewitching and the others over. However, he didn't expect that the Di family still hadn't shown up. He was extremely unhappy. Ever since he came out of the abyss, he had been thinking about how to take revenge. Previously, he had lost so miserably at the hands of Di Bewitching and the others, which made him extremely unhappy. Plus, those immortal herbs were supposed to be in his hands. But now, most of them were in the hands of the Di family and the Lin clan. Naturally, he wasn't willing to accept this. Once the cultivators of the Di family brought the immortal spiritual grass back to their family, the strength of their family members would increase by a whole level. This was not something he wanted to see. Therefore, he thought for a long time before coming up with this excellent idea. Xiao Sou's expression was extremely complicated after seeing this situation. In fact, when she first heard Jun Lingshuan's suggestion, she was somewhat resistant. After all, she was the next holy maiden of the light. Just based on her identity, she shouldn't be involved in such a bloody matter. It would greatly affect her image. However, Jun Lingshuan was the person she liked, not to mention that Jun Lingshuan had saved her. At this time, if she didn't help, it wouldn't be right. Most importantly, she understood that once the cultivators of the Di family increased in strength, they would definitely think of ways to suppress the Jun family. Of course, she didn't want to see that happen. Therefore, the only way was to completely suppress the Di family and the Lin clan now. As long as Di Xiaofeng and Di Bewitching died, the Di family and the Lin clan would definitely suffer a heavy blow. In the future, the Shao family and the Jun family would have a much higher chance of success if they worked together. Chapter 4971. Nangong Yuqing's resentment towards Di Bewitching was undoubtedly very deep. This guy first mocked his appearance, making him a laughingstock in everyone's eyes. Then, when he attacked, he made him unable to back down in front of everyone. As a very outstanding existence in the younger generation, he had always been very stingy with his reputation. If he wasn't sure that he could win, he wouldn't easily make a move. However, this time, he had miscalculated one after another and lost to Di Bewitching, so one could imagine the resentment in his heart. Most importantly, Di Bewitching's performance in the Light Ruins had completely crushed him. Obviously, this was the first time that a cultivator had appeared in front of everyone, but he had repeatedly stepped on him, becoming a stepping stone. It was not his style to not think of a way to recover his losses. Di Bewitching himself is not a great person. Jun Lingshuan chuckled. Speaking of which, isn't it because he is the young master of the Di family? Without this identity, he can't even compare to his wife. Thinking of Bailey Hongzhuang, Jun Lingshuan's complex and deep eyes flashed with a strange light. As his understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang gradually increased, he increasingly felt that his previous judgment was very inaccurate. Because Bailey Hongzhuang was the real existence of a proud daughter of heaven. If Bailey Hongzhuang had a strong enough background, then they would not be able to reach her. Listening to Jun Lingshuan's words, a bright smile appeared on Nangong Yuqing's face. You're right, that's how it is. Nangong Yuqing's swollen face rippled with a sinister and proud smile. His ugly appearance made many people unable to help but look away, but it was a pity that he didn't notice it at all. If Di Bewitching didn't have the support of his wife, what kind of thing would he be? At this moment, many cultivators had gathered in the surroundings. After hearing Jun Lingshuan and Nangong Yuqing's arrogant and mocking words, their eyebrows revealed a bit of sadness. After all, in the Light Ruins, they had clearly seen Nangong Yuqing's performance. If it wasn't for the Di family, it would have been a problem for the Nangong family to come out. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, Nangong Yuqing would belittle Bewitching to such an extent? Didn't you say that the D family would definitely come? Chu Yingming's thick eyebrows wrinkled, his firm and deep face revealed a bit of displeasure. I don't want to waste too much time here. Hearing Chu Yingming's words, Jun Lingshuan's expression, he suddenly became serious. According to my understanding, as long as the D family heard of this news, they will definitely come. The reason why they haven't come is because they haven't heard the news yet. Right now, we don't even know where they are. If they don't hear the news, then won't we just be wasting our time here? The displeasure in Chu Yingming's eyes became more and more intense, and his voice became a bit colder. The Chu clan was also an extremely powerful existence in the group that had come this time. Even in normal times, Jun Lingshuan was extremely polite to Chu Yingming. Moreover, he was very clear that if he didn't rope in Chu Yingming now, then even if the three great families joined forces, they still wouldn't be a match for the D family. They won't, Jun Lingshuan said with certainty. I can guarantee that they will soon receive the news. Chapter 4972. The cultivator from the D family hasn't shown up yet. I'm afraid he won't show up today. I just wanted to watch a good show today and find out if the immortal spiritual grass really exists. I didn't think that I'd end up with nothing. How disappointing. The way I see it, the D family probably thinks that this is the Jun family scheme. Once they show up, they'll fall into an ambush. It's normal that they don't show up. The surrounding groups couldn't help but discuss after seeing this. As time passed, the discussion became more and more heated. In the next moment, Jun Lingshuan directly grabbed Dijai's and brought him over. At this moment, Dijai's no longer had his usual high-spirited appearance. At this moment, he was battered and exhausted. His hands were tied behind his back by Jun Lingshuan. His face was pale and he looked weak. It was obvious that he had been severely tortured by Jun Lingshuan and the others. Noticing Dijai's current state, everyone's expression changed. They didn't think that Jun Lingshuan was telling the truth. He really did capture a cultivator from the D family. Most importantly, Dijai's wasn't an ordinary member of the D family. It was said that he had a high chance of becoming the D family's young master. Even now that Bewitching has returned, Dijai's status was still higher than that of an ordinary member. Now that he's fallen into Jun Lingshuan's hands, he's in such a miserable state. It really made people sigh. Everyone says that the D family values friendship. In my opinion, that's a joke. Jun Lingshuan's eyes were full of mockery. His cold gaze fell upon Dijai's and he smiled. Dijai's, you've always been so arrogant in front of me. Now, I'd like to see how you're going to act tough. Hearing this, Dijai's raised his eyes and coldly glared at Jun Lingshuan. His cold, unwavering gaze was filled with determination and unyielding. Even more so, there was a deep sense of disgust. It's still better than a despicable person like you. If you hadn't colluded with them, you'd be dreaming if you thought you could catch me. Dijai's gritted his teeth. All of this made him feel humiliated. He had actually fallen into the hands of the person he despised the most. Bang! Jun Lingshuan unceremoniously threw a punch at Dijai's. Dijai's face immediately turned to the side. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that blood was flowing out from the corner of his lips. So what? At the very least, you're in my hands now, and your life is in my hands. Jun Lingshuan, don't go too far. At this moment, a member of the D family couldn't help but roar angrily. Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but chuckle when he saw this. Di Fanhao, you're already at death's door, yet you're still talking about brotherly love? Why don't you die in his place today? Anyway, you're just going to explore the underground first. He'll come to accompany you tomorrow. What do you think? As he spoke, Nangong Yuqing reached out and slapped Di Fanhao's face. Each slap was like a slap to the face, making a loud sound. At the same time, everyone noticed that Di Fanhao's face was rapidly swelling up. Fine, I'll die in his place. Di Fanhao didn't hesitate. Look at the smug faces of despicable people like you. It's disgusting just to look at them. Oh, you're quite something. Nangong Yuqing chuckled, but there was no trace of a smile in his eyes. Do you believe that I'll kill you? As soon as he finished speaking, Nangong Yuqing kicked Di Fanhao in the stomach. However, at this moment, a sonorous and powerful voice suddenly rang out. Chapter 4973. As this voice rang out, everyone's gaze followed the source of the voice. Immediately after, a group of people slowly appeared in everyone's line of sight. At first glance, everyone saw Di Xiaofeng and Di Beichen walking at the front. These two were undoubtedly the representatives of the Lin family and the Di family. They were the most important people. Because of their outstanding appearances, they were the most eye-catching existences no matter where they went. The Di family's people are finally here. I didn't expect them to actually dare to come even though they knew that this was a tiger's den. If you ask me, it's a good thing that they came. If they didn't come, they would never be able to wash away their reputation as cowards. Everyone's eyes lit up. They had been waiting to see a good show. If the Di family and Lin family's cultivators didn't appear, then they would have waited in vain. After Di's eyes and the others saw Di Xiaofeng's group appear, their eyes flashed with a trace of excitement. However, after the excitement, there was a trace of sadness. After all, they were all disciples of the same family. However, because of themselves, they dragged their family members down. Naturally, they felt guilty. "Oh, you guys finally appeared." Jun Lingshuan chuckled, but his eyes were cold. "I thought you guys didn't dare to come." Chu Yingming's originally cold face also softened a bit. Even the cold arc on his face softened a lot. There was a faint smile between his eyebrows. "Chu Yingming, you can rest assured now." Nangong Yuqing glanced at Chu Yingming and lowered his voice. The corner of Chu Yingming's lips rose slightly. This kind of thing shouldn't be wasted too much time. It's best to solve it as soon as possible. Looking at Chu Yingming's confident appearance, Nangong Yuqing quietly shook his head. After knowing Chu Yingming for so many years, he always felt helpless against Chu Yingming's temperament. This guy never seemed to have anything worth wasting his time on. No matter who it was, a treasure like the immortal spiritual grass was extremely precious. Even if he had to spend more time on it, it was still worth it. However, in Chu Yingming's eyes, he didn't think so. "Jun Lingshuan, you think too highly of yourself." Di Beichen's voice was cold and indifferent. "A mere guy who was chased by us dares to talk nonsense. Don't you think you're ridiculous?" Facing Di Beichen's undisguised ridicule, Jun Lingshuan couldn't help but recall the 2 times he met Di Beichen's situation. He had to admit, it was a bit embarrassing. Of course, he couldn't admit it in front of everyone's eyes. "Di Beichen, Nangong of words." Jun Lingshuan shouted coldly, "In short, from the moment you stole our immortal spiritual grass, you were destined to pay the price. Of the D of you of D of Li, of the of immortal of them of the of this of them. Open your eyes and look carefully. Your family's cultivators are in our hands." Nangong Yuqing's voice rang out. "I'll give you a chance. As long as you kill yourself now, we'll leave your corpses intact." You're dreaming." Lin Taxing rolled his eyes. "Nangong Yuqing, you've become more and more stupid after staying with Jun Lingshuan for so long. What nonsense are you talking about?" Chapter 4974. Lin Taxing spared no effort in ridiculing Nangong Yuqing. In the past, he had never had any conflicts with Nangong Yuqing, so he had never taken this matter to heart. Now that they had become enemies, he naturally did not hold back. In fact, he felt that he had been enduring this phase for a long time over the years. "Lin Taxing, you're courting death." Nangong Yuqing's anger surged. His already ugly face turned ferocious, making him look like a monster. "You should know that the lives of your clansmen are in our hands." "Jun Lingshuan, where are Xiren and Yingying now?" Di Beichen's handsome eyes narrowed. His gaze was cold and sharp. "Naturally, they're in my hands." Jun Lingshuan raised his eyebrows. "If you kneel down and beg me now, maybe I'll tell you when I'm in a good mood." "In your dreams." Di Beichen's expression was ice cold. "I think you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin." Jun Lingshuan's eyes flashed with a trace of resentment. Ever since Jun Zitao had fallen, he had made up his mind to make Di Beichen and the others pay for Jun Zitao's death no matter what. Therefore, he had come up with the best idea. Everyone already knows that the immortal spiritual herb is in the hands of the D family and the Lin family. As long as we kill them, the immortal spiritual herb will belong to whoever gets it. Jun Lingshuan's voice was loud and clear, instantly attracting everyone's attention. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Bewitching and the others clearly felt the breathing of the surrounding cultivators quicken. Their gazes also became more intense. The immortal spiritual herb was a treasure that was enough to make a group of cultivators go crazy. No one could resist the attraction of the immortal spiritual herb. After noticing the changes in the crowd, Jun Lingshuan's eyes flashed with a trace of pride. As long as he could kill the cultivators from the D family and the Lin family, he would undoubtedly remove the obstacles to the rise of the Jun family. Furthermore, he had already obtained a portion of the immortal spirit herbs. Now that he had obtained another portion, he was definitely the biggest winner. However, after sensing everyone's restlessness, Di Xiaofeng's voice rang out. I know that everyone has heard Jun Lingshuan's slanderous words, but I think we can't just listen to one person's side of the story. I hope that everyone can give me some time to explain. Di Xiaofeng's expression was calm. He didn't feel the slightest bit of nervousness or panic because of everyone's change. On the contrary, his calmness and indifference made everyone's anxious hearts slow down a bit. Di Xiaofeng, are you still going to quibble at a time like this? Xiao Suo couldn't help but ask. She was also very clear about the truth of this matter. Although Jun Lingshuan had obtained a portion of the immortal herbs, the Di family still had more immortal herbs. I'm quibbling? Di Xiaofeng chuckled. The disgust in his eyes became even more obvious. Along the way, you've splashed countless dirty water on us. Now, you want to borrow everyone's hands to destroy us. However, we won't let your plan succeed. That's right. You've lied to us time and time again. We won't let you play with us like this. It was clearly you who snatched the immortal spiritual herbs. Now, you're pushing all the blame onto us. What a good plan. Chapter 4975. When the crowd saw that the D family and the Jun family were confronting each other, they were not in a hurry to make a move. The news did come from Jun Lingshuan's mouth, but they didn't really know what the situation was. Di Xiaofeng, it's useless no matter how you explain it now. The immortal spiritual herb is in your hands, unless you hand it over obediently now. Jun Lingshuan's expression was indifferent and the corners of his lips were curled up in a complacent manner, as if he had already had a card up his sleeve. Jun Lingshuan, who do you think you are? Do you think you can say whatever you want? Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with mockery. The immortal spiritual herb has clearly been snatched away by you using despicable means, and now you're blaming us for it. Do you really think you can take advantage of us and pretend to be innocent? I've already guessed that you would say this, but it's useless no matter what you say. Jun Lingshuan's handsome face did not show the slightest bit of panic. Instead, he said to the other cultivators, everything we've said is true. Furthermore, Miss Xiao has already used her actions to prove it very clearly. Do you still have any doubts? As soon as he said this, everyone's eyes fell on the D family once again. They no longer considered this and were thinking about when to make a move later so that they could obtain the best benefits. However, right at this moment, a resounding voice that was filled with ridicule suddenly rang out. Jun Lingshuan, you really don't know when to lie. A man in a blue brocade robe and a woman in a yellow dress slowly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. You keep saying that you're telling the truth, but didn't you just say that we're in your hands? Why didn't I know about it? Following the appearance of these two figures, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's faces were filled with joy and relief. Isn't this Xiren and Shangguan Yingying? Lin Taxing's face was filled with joy and he turned to look at Jun Lingshuan. Didn't you say that they're in your hands? Now, it seems like that's not the case. Seeing this, Jun Lingshuan's expression also changed as he looked at this scene in astonishment. Previously, he had only casually mentioned it to increase the panic in the hearts of the D family. However, he did not expect that Xiren and Wen Xinya would appear at this time and disrupt his plan. Chu Yingming frowned as he glanced at Jun Lingshuan. He thought to himself, unable to accomplish anything, but good at spoiling things. Indeed, this face slapping was really too fast. Just a second ago, he said that everything was the truth, but in the next second, he was exposed. Xiao Sou's expression also became extremely awkward. This was using her name as the Saint of the Light, and now that it was exposed, it would affect her reputation. Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but stare blankly. This sudden change really made his face hurt. Ziren Yinging. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the rapidly approaching Wen Ziren and Wen Xinya, and a joyful and excited smile appeared on her elegant face. Great, so you're here. Hongzhuang, we didn't meet you on our way here. I didn't expect that Jun Lingxuan would use your name to threaten you. It made me so anxious. Shangguan Yinging took Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. This guy has always been full of lies. You can't believe his words. As long as you're all right, we're relieved. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Chapter 4976. Hearing Di Xiaofeng's words, the cultivators in the surrounding teams all had a trace of hesitation in their eyes. Not for any other reason, but because Jun Lingxuan really didn't have much persuasive power now. It wasn't like this before, but ever since the Jun family's actions were exposed, everyone felt a trace of distrust. Moreover, now that they had been directly exposed, no one knew if what he said was true or false. That's right, I can testify that the Di family and Lin family cultivators don't have any immortal spirit herbs. The cultivators from the Cloud Sky sect were also around, but the situation before wasn't suitable for them to speak up. Now that they had spoken up, they could naturally express their thoughts. How do you know? Hearing Qiu Baixin's words, the surrounding teams couldn't help but ask. Qiu Baixin immediately explained what had happened. At this time, the Cloud Sky sect and the other two teams' words were undoubtedly more convincing than the Di family or the Jun family's words. Jun Lingxuan didn't think that the Cloud Sky sect would help the Di family. A strange expression appeared on his face and his expression became ugly. This was because he noticed that many teams' gazes towards them had changed. How could this be? Nangong Yuqing frowned as he looked at Di Xiaofeng with a hint of panic on his face. They had originally set up an inescapable net to deal with the Di family, but now that they had been successfully brainwashed by the Di family, they had become turtles in a jar. I don't know either. Jun Lingxuan shook his head. This sudden change was completely out of his expectations. Most importantly, he didn't understand why the Cloud Sky sect and the other two teams would choose to believe Di Xiaofeng and the others. So, we're counting on you. After a brief moment of panic, Jun Lingxuan quickly calmed down and looked at Xiao Sou for help. Right now, it was difficult for people to trust him. The only person who could make everyone believe them was Xiao Sou. Xiao Sou had also expected this situation and immediately spoke up without hesitation. Everyone, please calm down. The matter regarding Shangguan Yinging and Shangguan Yinging was indeed a cover to attract the people from the Di clan. I believe everyone can understand this point. However, this immortal spiritual herb is indeed with them, I can testify. Xiao Sou's clear and melodious voice came out of her mouth, causing everyone's fervor to subside a little. Seeing this scene, Jun Lingxuan revealed a smile again. At the same time, Chu Yingming's voice rang out, everyone, don't fall into their trap. If you want to know whether or not the item is on them, it's very simple. As long as you kill them and take their storage rings, you will naturally know. Seeing that everyone's hearts were stirred up by Chu Yingming, Di Beichen's handsome eyebrows furrowed. He asked in a deep voice, who is this person? He is the Chu clan's young master, Chu Yingming. Di Xiaofeng looked deeply at him and said, Chu Yingming is a person who values benefits greatly. To him, only benefits can move him. Everything else is nothing in his eyes. However, the Chu clan is also a huge monster. They started out in business and have a lot of precious resources in their hands, so they have a lot of status. Chapter 4977. He's quite a ruthless character. Di Beichen's eyes were deep and complicated, containing a sharp and intimidating light. Although this was the first time they had met, he could tell from his straightforward words that he was a man of means. Not only that, but he also had strength. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so confident. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly, that's right. Even Nangong Yuqing can't compare to him. However, because everyone knows his character, There aren't many people who are on good terms with him. I didn't expect Jun Lingxuan to be able to pull him onto the boat. Without the Chu family, Jun Lingxuan wouldn't be so confident. So what if it's the Chu family? Since they've decided to be our opponents, we naturally won't be afraid. Lin Taxing's expression was cold. He had always been very clear about right and wrong. If he wasn't a match for them, he naturally wouldn't want to provoke them. However, if they were an opponent, he would show no mercy. Di Beichen's lips curved into a sinister smile. Taxing is right. Since they're our opponents, what's there to be afraid of? We'll just catch them all in one fell swoop. Seeing the confidence and determination on Di Beichen and Lin Taxing's faces, Di Xiaofeng's face also bloomed into a smile. That's right. At worst, we'll just fight. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang directly displayed the power of light. With her as the center, a pure and holy light spread out in all directions, enveloping all the cultivators around her. Feeling this incomparably pure and warm light, everyone felt a wave of comfort in their body and mind. Even the fatigue from these days seemed to have dissipated in a short period of time. Xiao Sou is only using this method to prove that she's telling the truth. However, as the Saintess of Light, she has more means than I do. I can also guarantee that the immortal spirit herb is in the hands of the Jun family. The holy light shone on Bailey Hongzhuang's fair face, making her look as elegant and otherworldly as a fairy. Every word she said contained an indescribable influence, making people feel inexplicably convinced. After seeing the power of light displayed by Bailey Hongzhuang, Xiao Sou's delicate face couldn't help but be shocked. How was this possible? How could Bailey Hongzhuang's light energy be so powerful? Even she was unable to achieve such purity. According to the Radiant Master, the higher the talent of the cultivator, the higher the purity of the radiant energy. She had always been the most influential existence in the radiant sacred assembly of light. She had never thought that someone would surpass her in this aspect. However, this woman, who had always surprised her, had now surpassed her in even this aspect? Was that even possible? Xiao Sou stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze. She couldn't think straight for a moment. Even though many things had happened to Bailey Hongzhuang that she thought were impossible, this was really impossible. At the same time, Di Beichen's voice rang out. I don't know how the Jun family and the rest of you decided to distribute the immortal spirit grass, but think about it carefully. Even if you help them attack us, once we fall, as long as they join forces, you may not be able to do anything to them. On the contrary, the decision lies entirely in their hands. However, we're different. We won't participate in this matter. The immortal spirit grass belongs to whoever snatches it. We only want our innocence. Chapter 4978. No one would complain about having too many immortal spiritual grasses. After Di Beichen said this, everyone's eyes lit up. Indeed, the combined power of the Jun family's four families was not to be underestimated. After hearing Di Beichen's words, Di Xiaofeng immediately understood what he meant. Right now, the most important thing for them was to deal with the Jun family, so they decided not to let the Jun family borrow everyone's power to deal with them. Jun Lingxuan did have a lot of immortal spiritual grasses, but as long as they could eliminate them, these immortal spiritual grasses would not be much to each force. On the contrary, it would not affect them and solve the biggest hidden danger. Our people are here. Even if you don't believe me, you can deal with them first. I can guarantee that they definitely have immortal spiritual grasses in their hands. If they don't, we will wait for everyone here. Di Xiaofeng's voice was loud and clear, clearly transmitted into the ears of every cultivator around. After hearing this, the people who were still hesitating immediately dispelled all their worries. Indeed, the Di family and the Lin family together were naturally not comparable to the four families of the Jun family. As long as they dealt with the Jun family, even if they faced the Di family and the Lin family, they would still be victorious. However, on the other hand, the effect would be different. No one present was stupid. With just a little thought, they already knew what method was the most beneficial to them. Jun Lingxuan also felt that this matter was not good. He quickly said to Xiao Sou, quickly use the power of light to salvage the situation. However, Xiao Sou had a troubled look on her face. No, no. Jun Lingxuan was stunned and anxiously asked, why not? Xiao Sou did not explain because she was unwilling to admit that her strongest domain was threatened by Bailey Hongzhuang. She had to clarify this point first, otherwise she would never let everyone discover the existence of this problem. After seeing the reaction of the Jun family, everyone who had already made up their minds was even more convinced that their judgment was not wrong. Don't hesitate, let's do it. As the voice of a cultivator fell, everyone present no longer hesitated and directly rushed towards Jun Lingxuan and the others. What do we do now? Nangong Yuqing was completely dumbfounded. Didn't they set a trap for the D family? How did it turn into a trap in the blink of an eye? Chu Yingming's face was extremely ugly. He had always only cared about benefits, but he did not expect that he would be tricked by others this time. However, at this time, even if he were to appear, it would be useless. He would not be able to make everyone believe him, and it would be useless. Thinking of it, Yingming Yuqing, I really misjudged you, you trash. Until now, he still found it hard to believe that this was clearly a good hand, but it was beaten to a pulp by Jun Lingxuan. Yingming, let's go. Chu Yingming immediately looked to his family's disciples. If they didn't leave at a time like this, they would also bring disaster upon themselves. After seeing Yingming Yingsa of Yingming Bangming Yingming. Move quickly. Don't let them get away. The immortal spirit grass must be in their hands. In an instant, everyone swarmed forward, their eyes flashing with urgency. The cultivators from the D family and the Lin family stood in their original spots, grinning from ear to ear. Chapter 4979. Ao Lingxiao chuckled. He didn't think that they would be able to turn the tables around. Even now, he couldn't help but exclaim, how exciting! Humans are selfish. They will always think from their own point of view. Di Bei Chen's expression was indifferent. This scene had long been within his expectations. It's great now. With everyone dealing with them, we can sit back and reap the benefits. Lin Qianqian couldn't help but clap her hands. This feeling was beyond exhilarating. As long as the Jun clan and the Xiao clan's troops were destroyed, the two clans would lose their fresh blood. That would greatly affect them. However, the immortal spiritual grass will fall into the hands of others. When everyone was fighting, Di Xiaofeng and Di Beichen took the opportunity to save Di Zhi'ai's and the others. The situation changed too quickly. Jun Lingxuan and the others didn't have time to care about Di Zhi'ai's and the others. The moment everyone rushed over, Di Zhi'ai's and the others began to retreat. Therefore, Di Xiaofeng and Di Beichen's rescue plan was successful. Zhi'ai's, are you okay? Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Zhi'ai's and the others with concern. After a closer look, he realized that everyone was very weak. It was obvious that they had been tortured by Jun Lingxuan. I'm fine. Di Zhi'ai's shook his head. Bailey Hongzhuang handed over the dawn to Di Zhi'ai's and the others. The four of them swallowed the dawn immediately. Young master, thank goodness you came in time and turned the situation around. Or else we would have lost our lives. Di Fanhao's face was full of joy. He was already prepared to lose his life. He didn't think that he would still be alive. He couldn't help but feel happy. As long as I'm here, nothing will happen to you. Di Beichen patted Di Fanhao's shoulder. His eyes were full of determination. Since he was the Di clan's young master, it was his responsibility to protect the descendants. Though it was a simple statement, everyone in the Di clan could hear the seriousness and determination in it. Immediately, a feeling of being touched and resolute lingered in everyone's hearts. Not giving up on any disciple, this was the true young lord. Di Fanhao's eyes were slightly red, but the smile on his face was extremely bright. I know. If we had immediately asked Jun Lingxuan to let him go, he would have definitely tried his best to humiliate us. Not only would it not have any effect, it would only allow him to seize the opportunity. That's why I didn't mention it, to divert everyone's attention. Di Beichen's voice was warm and magnetic as he slowly explained to everyone what had happened. He knew Jun Lingxuan's style very well, so he began to refute the authenticity of his words as soon as he arrived, making him forget about this bargaining chip for a moment. Fortunately, the effect was not bad. Previously, when I saw that young master had never mentioned asking Jun Lingxuan to release him, I was worried. It turns out that young master already had a plan. In an instant, everyone came to a realization. I didn't expect this matter to be resolved so smoothly. You guys are amazing. Murong Jing stayed at the back and didn't appear in front of everyone. This was what Di Xiaofeng had told him before. Initially, he was extremely worried. He thought that once the battle broke out, they would rush over immediately. He didn't expect that in such a short time, the spearhead would be shifted to Jun Lingxuan and the others. Chapter 4980. Once everyone gets rid of them, maybe they will point their spear at us. Di Xiaofeng's face was solemn and serious. He understood the selfishness and nature of these people too well. Even if there was a possibility, everyone would want to find out if they had the immortal spirit grass on them. Hearing this, everyone immediately understood what was going on. It's all that damn Jun Lingxuan's fault. Lin Yi cursed. If he didn't have to bring this matter out, then things wouldn't be so troublesome. We have to think about our next situation. Everyone frowned. They still had to stay in this immortal cloud secret realm for a few months. They had to come up with a good idea. The strength of our three families combined can't be underestimated, but there are still some risks in the face of everyone's alliance. Murong Jing's eyes flashed with a thoughtful light. Otherwise, we can find a way to rope in one or two more allies. This shouldn't be a big problem. This is indeed the best way. Di Xiaofeng nodded. We have to leave this place first. Once we are far away, it will be impossible for everyone to gather together. Our safety will naturally be improved. After making a decision, everyone didn't delay and wanted to leave in another direction. Jun Lingxuan's mood at this moment was extremely bad. He didn't expect things to turn out like this in the end. Obviously, all the advantages were in their hands, but now they could only run away. Jun Lingxuan, what the hell is going on with you? Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but curse. With so many people chasing after you, it's difficult to run away. Why don't we just stop and join forces to fight them? Jun Lingxuan frowned. When did he fall to such a state? We can't even fight. Xiao Sudong quickly said, unless Chu Yingming agrees, we can't stop their attack even if we join forces. Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan quickly turned his gaze to Chu Yingming, who was not far away. Chu Yingming, you can't run away like this. Why don't we fight together? Jun Lingxuan, even if you want to die, don't drag me down with you. Chu Yingming had a cold expression. Once we truly fight, even if we win, we will have to pay a considerable price. At that time, if the Di family and the Lin family come, think of the consequences. What I regret the most is believing your words and staying away from me in the future. Chu Yingming's eyes were filled with disgust. He had always prided himself on being smart, but he didn't expect that he would make such a mistake in the end. Originally, he thought that with Xiao Souo around, he would be able to convince the other party. Who would have thought that the other party would also have a light attribute cultivator? This completely messed up all his plans. If he had known that the other party had such means, he would not have chosen to join forces with Jun Lingxuan. Now, he was being chased by so many people. After being scolded by Chu Yingming, Jun Lingxuan's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. However, after thinking about it carefully, he understood that Chu Yingming's words were reasonable. Once they were at a disadvantage, Bewitching and the others would definitely think of a way to catch them all in one fell swoop. No matter what, they couldn't be completely wiped out in the immortal cloud's secret realm. Thinking of this, Jun Lingxuan completely gave up on the idea of fighting head-on. Instead, he increased his speed to escape. As long as he left this place, he would be safe for a short period of time. Chapter 4981. After Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others made a decision, they planned to leave. However, just as they were about to leave, suddenly, a buzzing sound rang in front of them. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At first, everyone only felt a faint vibration sound. Then they found that the sound was getting closer and louder. What's that sound? Dai Haoan looked surprised. It sounds a bit like insects. I don't know. Lin Taxing frowned. His eyes were full of doubts and thoughts. It sounds like a lot. But, Is there such a large number of insects in the immortal cloud's secret realm? Everyone looked at each other with doubts in their hearts. However, just as everyone was wondering what was going on, a patch of yellow suddenly appeared in their line of sight. Sand and dust filled the sky. Why is there so much sand and dust in front? Shengguan Yingying couldn't help but ask in surprise. However, as the sand and dust gradually approached, Bewitching suddenly said in shock, "That's not sand and dust. It's locusts." The locusts gathered together like a sandstorm. The entire sky seemed to have turned yellow in an instant. They were approaching Bailey Hongzhuang and the others at a fast speed. "Oh my God, why are there so many locusts?" Lin Yi couldn't help but exclaim. She only felt that the locusts' army covered the entire sky. She got goosebumps instantly and couldn't help but tremble. Di Xiaofeng and the others were also at a loss. This situation was a bit too shocking. Why are there so many locusts in the immortal cloud's secret realm? I've never heard of it before. Murong Jing looked puzzled. For them, insects were simply an existence that could be ignored. However, such a large number of locusts gathered together was still a little shocking. However, the next scene shocked everyone. Because, in their sight, all the trees in the place where the locusts passed by instantly turned into nothingness. It was originally a dense forest, but in a short moment, nothing was left. "Let's get out of here." Bailey Hongzhuang immediately reacted, her face filled with anxiety and worry. "I'm afraid these locusts are no ordinary locusts. Their attack power is very strong. Even if it's us, I'm afraid we won't be able to pass through them." When Bailey Hongzhuang reminded them, the other cultivators also made the same decision, and the first thing they did was to retreat behind them. Judging from how terrifying these locusts were, it was impossible for them to pass through such a large area. Most importantly, no one was willing to use their own life as a stake. No one could see the side of the locusts, nor did they know how many there were. Therefore, leaving was the best option. Emperor Xiaofeng shouted, and everyone began to use their movement techniques to quickly retreat. That's the direction Jun Lingxuan and the others left in. Murong Jing couldn't help but remind everyone as they ran. They had originally hoped to be further away from those cultivators, but they didn't expect that they would have to quickly approach that place. It really made them feel helpless. Di Xiaofeng naturally understood what Murong Jing meant. He could only helplessly say, "There's no other way now. The most important thing is to stay alive." Chapter 4982. Everyone retreated at lightning speed, but the locusts behind them were not slow at all. During this process, not only did they not feel that the distance between the two parties had widened, on the contrary, the distance between them was constantly closing. Xiren pondered as he took out a piece of meat from his storage ring and threw it out. Everyone saw a small dent appear in the middle of the locusts, which was as flat as a wall. Then, the piece of meat disappeared into nothingness. Noticing this, everyone understood that even if they fell into the locusts' army, they would at most cause a small ripple before being devoured by the locusts at the fastest speed. "This is too scary." Everyone's mouth could not help but twitch as they felt their scalps go numb. This was really too scary. Everyone's speed began to soar. After all, no one wanted to die without leaving a corpse behind. Even though Jun Lingxuan and the rest had increased their speed to the maximum, they could not avoid being caught by the other cultivators. None of the cultivators who entered the immortal cloud mystery realm were mediocre. Even if he could escape, the disciples of his family would inevitably be caught by others. Under such circumstances, the final outcome would naturally be to fall into the hands of the other cultivators. Jun Lingxuan, obediently hand over the immortal spiritual herb and save yourself from unnecessary resistance. That's right, we don't have to take your lives. As long as you hand over your storage rings, we'll let this matter rest. Everyone surrounded the cultivators from the Jun, Shao, Nangong, and Chu families. During the process of chasing, it was inevitable that some of the cultivators would escape in other directions. They could not guarantee that none of them would be able to escape. Jun Lingxuan's expression was extremely ugly. He could not accept such an outcome. A storage ring was the property of every cultivator. Even though he did not bring many precious items into the immortal cloud mystery realm, when he thought of those immortal spiritual herbs, he could not agree at all. Xiao Sou's face was extremely pale. She could not help but look at Jun Lingxuan and ask, "What do we do now?" As the holy maiden of the light sect, when had she ever fallen to such a state? "What else can we do?" Jun Lingxuan said angrily, "If it weren't for the fact that you were unwilling to show your strength to convince everyone, you wouldn't have ended up like this." "That's right, big sister. Why didn't you use the power of light just now?" Xiao Sudong was also puzzled. Originally, the D family did not have an absolute advantage, but this turning point changed the outcome. Nangong Yuqing's eyes also fell on Xiao Sou. He didn't understand why Xiao Sou retreated at such a critical moment. Xiao Sou was at a loss for words in the face of everyone's resentful gazes. She could not explain this matter, so she could only remain silent. However, when everyone saw her like this, they felt even angrier. It would be fine if there were difficulties, but what was the meaning of this silence? Could it be that he was too lazy to even explain? "Jun Lingxuan, hurry up and hand it over," everyone questioned. "If you don't hand it over, we'll attack." Noticing everyone's attitude, Nangong Yuqing was the first to speak. "I only have one immortal spiritual herb. I'll hand it over and you'll let us go. How about it?" As the young master of the Nangong family, he had never been so helpless before. Chapter 4983. You. Hearing Nangong Yuqing's words, Jun Lingxuan couldn't help but feel anxious. This was the same as admitting that the immortal spirit grass was in their hands. Sure enough, everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. They immediately understood what was going on. So what the D family said was true. The immortal spirit grass is in Jun Lingxuan's hands. That's right. Jun Lingxuan said that he only had one immortal spirit grass. Now it seems that he was lying. Qiu Baixing couldn't help but say, "We were right to believe young Master D. This Jun Lingxuan is really full of lies." The cultivators of the Cloud Sky sect all nodded. Before, when they saw how much Qiu Baixing believed Di Xiaofeng, they were a bit worried. Now that it was proven to be true, their hearts were filled with emotions. "Nangong Yuqing, you're too disloyal." Xiao Sudong couldn't help but shout. With Nangong Yuqing's words, everything had been exposed and they didn't even have a chance to explain. Nangong Yuqing glanced at Xiao Sudong before turning his head and gently looking at Xiao Sou. "Miss Xiao, a wise man submits to circumstances. Now that the situation has reached this point, continuing to ally with the Jun family will only drag you down. In my opinion, you should stay with me. I'll definitely protect you." Nangong Yuqing's eyes were filled with sincerity and seriousness. He had always been sincere towards Xiao Sou. If it wasn't for the Xiao family and the Jun family's alliance, he wouldn't have chosen to join them. Everything he did was for Xiao Sou's sake. As for Jun Lingxuan, he didn't care about him at all. If such a person died, he would feel even better. At the same time, Chu Yingming also said, "That's right, I'm also willing to take out one immortal spirit grass. When Jun Lingxuan tried to rope me in, he only gave me one benefit. I hope everyone can believe me. Otherwise, if we really fight, I don't think it will be good for you." Compared to Nangong Yuqing, Chu Yingming's voice was more threatening. It had always been impossible to take things away from him. However, in this situation, the other party had the advantage in numbers. For the safety of his own team, this was undoubtedly the best choice. As for the immortal spiritual grass, now that it had been snatched away by others, he could just take it back in the future. When the cultivators saw Nangong Yuqing and Chu Yingming's attitude, they looked at each other and nodded. "All right. As long as you hand over the immortal herbs, we will let you go." Everyone understood that the combined combat power of the four teams was not to be underestimated. However, once the Nangong family and the Chu family withdrew, then it would be easy for them to deal with the Jun family and the Xiao family. Seeing everyone agree, Nangong Yuqing and Chu Yingming let out a sigh of relief. The feeling of being chased like this wasn't good. "Little girl, why don't you team up with me?" Nangong Yuqing looked at Xiao Sou and waited for Xiao Sou to agree. Jun Lingxuan couldn't help but feel anxious when he saw everyone sell him out. His gaze also fell on Xiao Sou. "So, Xiao So was slightly stunned. She didn't expect the situation to turn out like this. For a moment, she didn't know what to do. Chapter 4984. Xiao Sudong had an anxious look on his face. Although they were in an alliance with the Jun family, at this point in time, if they still cared about their friendship, they would be putting themselves in danger. Ao Zhongquang had always been by Jun Lingshuan's side. Their family was not considered a big family, and there were only 5 people allowed to enter the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. Previously, when they were in the abyss, the other disciples had already fallen at the hands of the Di family. He was the only one who had always been by Jun Lingshuan's side. Most importantly, the Jun family did not have that many people. Once the members of the other 3 clans chose to leave, they would really be finished. Young Master Jun, why don't we hand over the immortal spiritual herb? Otherwise, we won't even be able to keep our lives. Ao Zhongquang had an anxious look on his face. Although the treasure was good, they still needed to be alive to enjoy it. Jun Lingshuan did not immediately reply. His gaze was fixed on Xiao So. He wanted to know what decision Xiao So would make. Xiao So glanced at Nangong Yuqing, then looked at Jun Lingshuan. Finally, her gaze turned resolute. Nangong Yuqing, thank you for your good intentions. However, I will not leave. Big sister, are you crazy? Xiao Sudong looked at Xiao So in disbelief. He simply could not believe that his big sister would make such a decision at a time like this. However, Xiao So shook her head firmly. Sudong, you don't need to say anything more. The cultivators of the Xiao family could not help but look at each other. Could it be that their big sister was really deeply in love with Jun Lingshuan? One had to know that their big sister had always placed her family's interests at the highest point. Now, she had actually made a decision that was completely contrary to her usual self. Jun Lingshuan's expression softened. If Xiao So really chose to abandon him at this time, then he would definitely not forgive Xiao So. As long as he was able to leave the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm alive, he would definitely take everything back. Nangong Yuqing's eyes flashed with disappointment. He always knew that Xiao So didn't like him, but she wasn't willing to give up. In the past, he knew very well that even if Xiao So didn't like him, at least she didn't like other people. He still had hope. However, when he saw that Xiao So was thinking about Jun Lingshuan, he knew that he had no chance. During this period of time, Xiao So had done many things for Jun Lingshuan that she would not normally do. Thinking of this, Nangong Yuqing's gaze changed. If Jun Lingshuan could die in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, it wouldn't be too bad. Nangong Yuqing, Chu Yingming, hand over the immortal spirit grass and you can leave. Qiu Baixin couldn't help but say. Hearing this, Nangong Yuqing and Chu Yingming's expressions turned ugly. They took out the immortal spirit grass and threw it into the air. You guys can snatch it. Everyone don't fight. Let's take all the immortal spirit grass first before we distribute them. Qiu Baixin's voice was extremely loud. At this time, if there was an internal conflict, Jun Lingshuan and the others would find a chance to escape. Therefore, he definitely couldn't let such a thing happen. The other cultivators naturally understood this point. Therefore, even if they saw 2 immortal spirit grass, they didn't immediately rush to snatch it. Jun Lingshuan, are you waiting for us to make a move or are you going to hand it over yourself? Chapter 4985. No matter how hard the Jun and Xiao families fought, they would not be able to change the outcome. Jun Lingshuan's face was covered in a haze as he faced the crowd's pressure. His deep eyes were filled with hatred and murderous intent, but in the end, he had no choice but to give up. Since you want my storage ring so badly, I'll give it to you. As soon as he finished speaking, Jun Lingshuan took off his storage ring and fiercely threw it into the distance. The crowd watched as the storage ring turned into a parabola and flew towards the back. Immediately, everyone flew in the direction of the storage ring. They knew very well that the immortal spiritual herb must be in Jun Lingshuan's storage ring. As the crowd rushed to leave, Jun Lingshuan could not help but feel a sense of dejection. He had planned such a flawless trap, yet he never thought that the other party would change the outcome so easily. It was very difficult for him to walk out of this haze in a short while. Just as the crowd was chasing after the storage ring, they suddenly noticed a group of figures approaching them at a rapid speed. Aren't those the D family and the Lin family? It's not just them, there's the Morong family as well. What are they doing? Why is there suddenly so much sand and dust behind them? The crowd stared suspiciously at Bewitching and the others who were rapidly approaching them. Their eyes were filled with suspicion and astonishment. At the same time, they noticed that Bewitching and the others seemed to be saying something. However, the buzzing sound was so loud that they could not hear it clearly. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others continued to fly forward. The locust speed was simply too terrifying. Even at their maximum speed, they could only maintain their distance. When they saw the cultivators from the other groups, they could not help but warn them. Leave quickly. Unfortunately, their voices could not drown out the sound of the locusts. The other party was still standing on the spot in a daze. Finally, the cultivators with doubtful faces noticed that behind Bailey Hongzhuang and the others was not a cloud of dust, but an army of locusts. There was a trace of horror in their eyes. Heavens! There are so many locusts. Where did this come from? Although everyone's faces were still at a loss, their footsteps did not slow down at all. They immediately began to rush back quickly. Jun Lingxuan looked at Xiao Sou, and his original resentment dissipated at this moment. At least, Xiao Sou had not given up on him. Seiwu, thank you. Jun Lingxuan's voice was sincere, and a bright luster flashed in his eyes. Xiao Sou pursed her lips and shook her head. It was indeed my fault that you ended up in this situation. It's fine as long as you're not angry with me. Why would I be angry with you? Jun Lingxuan smiled and shook his head. Let's leave while everyone is away. Once they come back, there might be other troubles. All right. Knowing that Jun Lingxuan was not angry with her, Xiao Sou was overjoyed. In the next moment, the two groups of people rushed forward without hesitation. When Qiu Baixin saw Di Xiaofeng and the others, his heart also collapsed. Young Master Di, what's going on? How did you provoke such a large group of locusts? Chapter 4986. Hearing this, Qiu Baixin and the rest of the cultivators understood what was going on, but their faces turned ugly. Can't these locusts pass through directly? I don't know, but look at all the plants that have been eaten by them. Do you think we can do it? What if we wrap ourselves in elemental energy and rush in? Why don't you try? No one was willing to try, and no one was willing to take the risk. Therefore, they could only see a large group of cultivators flying in front, while the locusts were chasing after them. The Jun and Xiao family teams were rushing. According to their judgment, those cultivators would definitely fight to the death for the storage ring, and it would be impossible for them to catch up in a short period of time. However, they didn't expect that not long after they left, they would suddenly hear a rumbling sound behind them. Jun Lingxuan couldn't help but turn his head and look behind him in confusion. He couldn't understand at all. Did they already distribute everything so quickly? This didn't make sense. However, when he turned his head, he saw an unbelievable scene. A group of cultivators was fleeing in front, and the locusts' army behind them covered the entire sky. It was like the end of the world, and it made one's heart tremble. These are locusts? Xiao Sou was dumbfounded. She knew what locusts were, but she had never heard of so many locusts. These aren't ordinary locusts. Jun Lingxuan narrowed his eyes, and a trace of nervousness appeared on his face. These locusts are much bigger than ordinary locusts, and their destructive power is incomparable to ordinary locusts. Let's hurry and run. Xiao Sudong didn't have the time to think about what kind of locusts these were. So many people were already being chased, and if they continued to be in a daze, it would be over. After Xiao Sudong's reminder, everyone also reacted and rushed forward without hesitation. Seeing that Jun Lingxuan and the rest were safe and sound, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. This situation was a little different from what she had imagined. At the same time, Di Xiaofeng also asked Qiu Baixin. Young Master Qiu, did you find any immortal herbs on Jun Lingxuan's body? Qiu Baixin nodded. Young Master Di, you were right. That Jun Lingxuan really framed you. He had already handed over the storage ring, But before he could find out where the storage ring was, he was chased by this swarm of locusts. Do you think these locusts will eat the storage ring as well? As soon as Qiu Baixin finished speaking, the cultivators who were fleeing felt the corners of their mouths twitch. This was what they were most worried about. The immortal spiritual grass was such a treasure that they finally had the chance to get their hands on it. Who would have thought that the cooked duck would fly away just like that? One could imagine the depression in their hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but look at each other. With the terrifying destructive power of the locusts, it was really hard to say. It was indeed a pity that the immortal spiritual grass was gone just like that. However, it didn't fall into the hands of any cultivators, which was considered good news to them. After Jun Lingxuan and the rest joined the fleeing group, they quickly realized that the Nangong and Chu families who had left not long ago had also joined the group. Chapter 4987. Jun Lingxuan stared coldly at Di Xiaofeng and the others. You win this time, but the matter between us is not over yet. Di Xiaofeng sneered. Even if you want to, I won't agree to it. Jun Lingxuan, even if you die, the matter between us and the Jun family is not over yet. Lin Taxing said coldly. Seeing this, Jun Lingxuan's gaze became even more ruthless. He could not help but clench his fists under his sleeves. He hated that he could not immediately tear the cultivators from the Di family and the Lin family into pieces. The army of locusts seemed to have an endless supply of energy. The cultivators had been chased for 3 whole days, but the locusts showed no signs of stopping. During these 3 days, the crowd realized that the number of cultivators around them was constantly increasing. Some of the groups that had not been able to reunite were now reunited with the help of the locusts. However, while the locusts had endless energy, the cultivators did not. In these 3 days, the yuan qi in their bodies had been depleted rapidly. In desperation, the cultivators could only take out pills to help recover their yuan qi. Although spirit stones could also restore yuan qi, it could only be done in a state of cultivation. Obviously, in this situation, they could not cultivate properly and could only rely on pills to restore their yuan qi. If these locusts keep chasing us like this, we'll be exhausted to death sooner or later. Where did these locusts come from? Are we going to die in the immortal cloud's secret realm? The cultivators could not help but feel hopeless. They suddenly remembered that in the immortal cloud's secret realm, an entire group of cultivators had been wiped out. Could this be the case? We don't have many pills that can restore yuan qi. It won't be long before we run out. Some cultivators had already realized that they did not have enough pills. At their level, most of the pills they had on them were healing pills. Although they had pills that could restore yuan qi, they did not have the most. This was because, with their strength, they only needed to meditate for a short while to restore their yuan qi very quickly. Moreover, they had the help of spirit stones. Who would have thought that they would encounter such a situation? Wife, how many pills did you bring? Di Beichen's eyes were filled with worry. At this moment, he was indeed a little worried. The energy of these locusts seemed to be endless. There was no telling when they would stop. On top of that, there were quite a number of cultivators in their team, so their elixirs were depleted very quickly. Although the elder had given him quite a number of pills, the pills that could restore one's origin energy were undoubtedly the least. This was because after obtaining spirit stones, these pills did not seem to have much use anymore. In the past, I have refined quite a number of pills for recovering elemental energy, so there is no need to worry for the time being. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but sigh in her heart. Fortunately, she was used to second-hand preparations. Not only were there pills in the primordial chaos ring, but there were also quite a few pills in the storage ring. Because she couldn't reveal the existence of the chaos ring, she also carried a storage ring with her and put many things in it. After all, if she was captured and the other party took away her storage ring, the other party would definitely not believe that there was nothing in it. Hearing this, Di Beichen nodded slightly. At this moment, they had no other choice. They could only hold on for as long as they could. Chapter 4988. Suddenly, a man couldn't help but say, I don't believe that these locusts are so powerful. I'm going to fight them." Hearing the man's words, everyone couldn't help but be taken aback. They saw that the man was covered in elemental power and rushed toward the locusts. "Fuck, this man is really courageous." Lin Qianqian looked stunned. They had been chased by these locusts for so many days, and no one tried to rush over. She didn't expect that this man intended to rush over alone. "In my opinion, I'm afraid that he doesn't have any elixir to restore his elemental power. Since they will catch up sooner or later, it's better to rush over directly. Maybe there is still a chance of survival." Lin Taxing's eyes were filled with complicated light. He could see the man's inner collapse and despair. If there was a chance, the man would not make such a choice. Everyone was also sad when they heard the words. At this time, elixir was extremely precious for every cultivator. No one was willing to hand over the elixir to others at this time. After all, no one's life was more important than their own. The feeling of being abandoned was undeniably devastating. However, even though everyone was filled with emotions, no one chose to help him at such a time. Because no one knew how long they would continue to be chased by these locusts. They couldn't even guarantee their own safety. In their sight, the man rushed directly to the locusts after making up his mind. Immediately afterward, everyone heard a scream, and there was no more movement. Someone called the man's name, but there was no response. Vaguely, everyone seemed to notice that there were some bloodstains on the ground. After seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but shudder. No one would think that this man had left alive. This was the real case of not leaving a corpse. Not even bones were left. "It's terrible." Lin Yi's face was pale. Although she expected such a result before, it was shocking when it really happened in front of her. For a time, everyone understood that there was no way to survive by retreating. Their only way was to rush forward. No one knew when they could escape from these locusts, but the only thing they could do was not to be caught up at this moment. Everyone fell into silence. They didn't say anything and just rushed forward. Even if they didn't know when it would end, at least they could live for a moment longer. At the same time, many cultivators began to break down mentally. The fewer pills there were, the more nervous they felt. That man's fate was their fate. Another 2 days passed, and everyone's expression became extremely ugly. "I can't do it anymore. I can't hold on any longer." "You must try your best to hold on. Otherwise, I'll lose my life here. But there's no point in continuing. It's just the difference between dying a little earlier and dying a little later." Voices of despair rang out one after another. Many cultivators had thoughts of giving up because they could not see any hope at all. They did not know what was the point of continuing like this. "I don't have any more pills with me." At this moment, the voice of a member of the D family rang out. His face was pale, his hands were trembling, and his eyes were filled with despair. "I don't want to die like this." Chapter 4989. Hearing this, the cultivators from the D family shuddered. Actually, they had more or less the same number of pills on them. It was just that they did not say it out loud. Now that the first person had raised this question, everyone could not help but start to panic. However, at this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang threw the white porcelain bottle at him. "Catch!" The man caught the white porcelain bottle out of habit. When he opened it, he realized that it was filled with pills that could help him recover his yuan power. His eyes instantly shone with a strange light. "Young Madam Master, you're giving me all these pills?" As the man was overjoyed, he raised his voice and instantly attracted the attention of many people. When the crowd realized that Bailey Hongzhuang had given the man an entire bottle of pills, their eyes were filled with astonishment. To be able to take out pills at such a time was not easy at all. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "Don't worry, I still have some pills here." Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the cultivators from the D family and Lin family had a glimmer of hope in their eyes. They had thought that they would be done for soon. They did not expect that the young Madam Master would still have pills. This was really a pleasant surprise. Murong Jing's expression was a little ugly. They did not have many pills left, and the disciples of their families were already struggling to make ends meet. Seeing this, he could not help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. After thinking for a long time, he decided to be thick-skinned and asked, "Miss Bailey, Do you have any extra pills? When he asked this question, Murong Jing's face turned red. Extra? At a time like this, how could anyone have extra pills? Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood what Murong Jing meant. She immediately took out another white porcelain bottle and handed it to Murong Jing. For you. Murong Jing was a little shocked when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang handing over the pills to him so easily. From his point of view, he had only asked with a glimmer of hope. He never thought that she would really give it to him. However, when he looked at the pills in his hands, he was pleasantly surprised. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Sir Murong, there's no need for you to be so courteous with us. Even though she was not familiar with Murong Jing, based on how Murong Jing had helped them in the past, it was enough for them to treat him as one of their own. If Bailey Hongzhuang had given the pills to the disciples of her family, everyone could still remain calm. However, when they saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had actually given the pills to another family, a covetous light in their eyes, they could not help but salivate. If they had known this would happen, they would be on good terms with the D family. Unfortunately, no matter how much they regretted, it was too late. Jun Lingxuan and the others also noticed this scene, and their gazes towards Bailey Hongzhuang became extremely complicated. If they could, they really wanted to snatch Bailey Hongzhuang's storage ring. In that case, there was no need for them to worry. However, based on the current situation, they would be in danger of being overtaken if they were to stop for even a moment. What more attack? As Bailey Hongzhuang took out pill bottle after pill bottle, everyone's faces were filled with shock. In the end, their shock has turned into numbness. Damn, Bailey Hongzhuang has so many pills on hand? Isn't this a little too much? The crowd was speechless. However, the covetous light in their eyes had exposed their inner feelings. How envious! Chapter 4990. It's good to have an alchemist in the family. Who can have this kind of happiness? Lin Yi couldn't help but feel proud. This feeling is really cool. Second cousin, you have a good eye. You can actually marry second cousin-in-law. You have made a great contribution this time. Lin Yi joked with a smile. Di Baichen raised his lips slightly, but his expression was extremely calm. Thank you for the compliment. In a blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. Almost everyone began to get used to this kind of running. What was even more amazing was that some people's movement skills were promoted during this escape. This was also the best harvest. Similarly, many cultivators died because of the exhaustion of elixirs and eventually exhausted their primary power. In this regard, everyone could only sigh in their hearts. In the face of this kind of crisis, life seemed extremely insignificant. Just when everyone thought that they couldn't hold on anymore, they suddenly found that the locusts stopped not far behind and didn't continue to move forward. Noticing this, everyone was startled. After taking a closer look, they found that there seemed to be an invisible barrier in front of the locusts, blocking them directly. Are these locusts not coming over? Perhaps the surprise came too suddenly. Everyone couldn't believe that all this would be true for a while. They still didn't dare to slow down their pace. However, after repeated observation, they found that the locusts really wouldn't move forward anymore. Oh my God, I'm exhausted from running. I can finally take a break. A cultivator laid limply on the ground. Even though he was a cultivator and was extremely strong, his body was already under too much pressure from running for his life. I can't take it anymore. I need to take a break. Damn it, these locusts have finally stopped. I thought they were going to chase us until the end of time. Almost everyone sat on the ground limply, panting heavily, but the corners of their lips couldn't help but curl up. At least, their lives were not in danger. After a short rest, Bailey Hongzhuang picked up the spirit stones and began to cultivate. She took a lot of elixirs. In fact, it was not good for her. However, she also had a way to deal with these elixir toxins. The most important thing now was to cultivate. After so many days of exhaustion, his body had long reached its limit. Cultivating at this time was undoubtedly the best. Bailey Hongzhuang was not the only one. Many other cultivators began to cultivate as well. After all, no one knew what kind of danger they would encounter in the next moment. The safest thing to do was to maintain one's best condition. For a moment, the surroundings became quiet. Everyone was immersed in their cultivation. Not only humans, but even contracted beasts were also cultivating. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes. She had recovered to her best condition. "Master, eat something." Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had exited her cultivation state, Xiao He quickly came over. After Xiao He's reminder, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt hungry. She immediately took out something from her storage ring and began to eat. Bewitching and the others also exited their cultivation state one after another and began to fill their stomachs. The exhaustion over the past few days has been too great. I haven't felt hungry for a long time. Shengguan Yingying could not help but sigh. Now that I think about it, I still have a lingering fear. Chapter 4991. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the place where the locusts stopped in the distance. She found that the locusts no longer gathered there. A trace of surprise suddenly appeared in her bright black phoenix eyes. Those locusts left? Lin Yi habitually looked at the place not far away when she heard the words. She nodded and said, "Those locusts stayed there for a while and then disappeared. It seems that they won't appear again." "It's strange. Why did those locusts stop there?" Shengguan Yingying's pretty face was puzzled. There is nothing there. When they stopped, there seems to be an invisible wall blocking them. Don't you think so? Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her phoenix eyes slightly. If I guessed correctly, there should be a barrier there that prevents them from coming in. Although they couldn't see it with the naked eye, it didn't mean that it didn't exist. The wall-like existence should be the barrier. Hongzhuang is right. There should be a barrier there. Di Xiaofeng nodded. In my opinion, the barrier should be to stop these locusts, so it has no effect on us. So, these locusts have existed for a long time. Di Beichen's gaze was complicated. Have you heard of it before? Lin Taxing shook his head. No, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes this time, I would never have thought that locusts would be so terrifying. But what are we going to do now? Lin Qianqian frowned. No one knew if those locusts would still be behind them. If they were still there, the consequences would be terrible. We can only move forward now. Xiren shrugged helplessly. He didn't want to face those locusts again. Hearing Wen Xiren's words, everyone nodded their heads. Since they still had to continue staying in the immortal cloud mystery realm for a period of time, they might as well take this opportunity to continue moving forward. Who knows, they might even find some good opportunities ahead. The cultivators of other teams had the same idea as the D family. Those locusts were no different from a nightmare in their hearts. Even if they were still alive, many people had become food for the locusts. They used to gather here in a large group, but now, the number had decreased a lot. Just thinking about it, they couldn't help but feel sad. It's a pity. I didn't expect Jun Lingxuan to throw the storage ring so far away. Who found it? After calming down at this moment, everyone also remembered what happened before. Even at this time, the immortal spirit grass was still a treasure that couldn't be ignored. As the cultivator's voice fell, everyone also thought of this matter. Previously, they didn't even have time to find the storage ring before they were chased over by the swarm of locusts. No, it happened too suddenly. There was no time to find it. It's all Jun Lingxuan's fault. For a moment, everyone's eyes fell on Jun Lingxuan. Needless to say, they knew that Jun Lingxuan had a lot of immortal spirit herbs in his storage ring. They didn't expect to waste them like this. It was really a pity. Jun Lingxuan obviously didn't expect that everyone wouldn't be able to snatch his storage ring, but after he reacted, he was overjoyed. Even if this immortal herb didn't land in his hands, he still wasn't willing to let others take advantage of it. Chapter 4992. After checking their remaining immortal spirit herbs, she naturally understood that Daihaoan had quite a lot of immortal spirit herbs in his storage ring. Now that it had disappeared into thin air, she naturally felt a sense of pity. Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes also flashed with regret. Indeed, it was a waste for such a heavenly treasure to disappear just like that. However, at this moment, Baisher's voice quietly rang in Bailey Hongzhuang's ears. "Master, Jun Lingxuan's storage ring is with me." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. A trace of astonishment uncontrollably crept onto her elegant and otherworldly face. However, she concealed it in the next second and looked at Baisher without batting an eyelid. "Why is his storage ring with you?" "Previously, when we were escaping, something suddenly fell on my head and I subconsciously caught it. At that time, I didn't pay attention to whose storage ring it was. However, now that I've heard everyone's conversation, I think it should be Jun Lingshuan's storage ring." Baisher's black eyes shone with a deep and confident luster. Although he had only seen the storage ring, based on the current situation, there was no other possibility other than this. As a beast king, Baisher was originally more intelligent than ordinary demonic beasts. Now that he was getting closer and closer to transforming into a human, Baisher's demeanor was also becoming more and more similar to that of a human. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally understood this, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. At the same time, Baisher had already quietly placed the storage ring in her hand. After receiving the storage ring, Bailey Hongzhuang scanned it with her spiritual consciousness and discovered that there was a layer of restriction on the storage ring. Every storage ring belonging to a cultivator would have a restriction on it that belonged to the original owner. In the next instant, she used her own power to remove the restriction on the storage ring. To an ordinary person, removing a restriction was not an easy task. Unless the original owner had already died, it would be very easy to remove the restriction. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's spiritual consciousness power was not comparable to that of an ordinary cultivator. Hence, it was very easy for her to remove the restriction. After removing the restriction, Bailey Hongzhuang quickly discovered the immortal spirit herb in the storage ring. Instantly, the smile in her eyes deepened. It seems that the heavens were still on their side. After going around in circles, the immortal spirit herb had returned to their hands. "Baisher, well done." Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Baisher, her eyes full of praise and praise. Hearing this, Baisher was pleased. "You flatter me. Baisher, I realize that you're not modest at all." Xiao He leaned over and couldn't help but say, "I've learned this from the male lead's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey of Bailey, Bailey Hongzhuang, Bailey Hongzhuang, Bailey of Bailey, Bailey of Bailey. Baisher, you have to be careful." Xiao He gave Bailey Hongzhuang a look that said, "Good luck." However, Di Baichen patted Bailey Hongzhuang's head calmly and said, "You're a promising child." Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the three beasts were celebrating, Jun Lingshuan's expression turned extremely ugly. Disbelief flashed through his eyes because he'd clearly sensed the restriction on his storage ring being removed just a moment ago. How could this be? Chapter 4993. In the next moment, Jun Lingshuan's gaze immediately scanned his surroundings. He only wanted to know who took his storage ring. Originally, he thought that no one would be able to get their hands on it, so he was rather calm. But now that he thought about how all the immortal spiritual herbs fell into someone else's hands, he could no longer remain calm. However, as his gaze swept across everyone, he did not see anyone's expression change. Immediately, Jun Lingshuan's heart was filled with confusion. Logically speaking, with his cultivation level, it would take a lot of effort for an average person to break the seal on his storage ring. As long as time passes, he would be able to sense who broke the seal. However, the other party broke the seal in such a short period of time. This was extremely strange. Could it be that the other party's cultivation level was so much higher than his? That's impossible. As the young master of the Jun family, he was one of the most powerful cultivators here. It was impossible for someone to surpass him by so much. If that was the case, then there was only one possibility left. Someone found his storage ring behind the locusts and removed the seal on it. Because of the distance, he could not sense it. It was just that everything had happened so suddenly. All the cultivators had been chased here by the locusts. How could there still be someone behind them? Xiao So also noticed that Jun Lingshuan's expression was a little strange. He looked like he had a lot on his mind. She could not help but ask out of concern, "Jun Lingshuan, what are you thinking about? Could it be that you're worried that the Di family will attack us?" Xiao So lowered her voice. Actually, she was also a little worried about this. Previously, they were allies with the Nangong family and the Chu family. However, now that their alliance had been broken up, the situation had changed. Jun Lingxuan shook his head. I just sensed that the seal on my storage ring was broken. As soon as he said this, Xiao So was shocked. Her elegant face could not hide her astonishment. How can that be? Didn't nobody find your storage ring? I don't know. Jun Lingxuan had a complicated look on his face. Originally, he was looking forward to having a chance to go back and retrieve the storage ring. However, now that he had completely lost contact with the storage ring, it was impossible for him to retrieve it. Could it be that the people here found it? Xiao So's gaze swept across the crowd. Almost all the cultivators who appeared there at that time are here. I won't. Jun Lingxuan shook his head with certainty. I didn't feel any fluctuations. Do you think someone could have successfully passed through the locusts? All along, they had believed that it was impossible for those cultivators to come back to life, but in reality, they did not know what the outcome was. If someone could successfully pass through the swarm of locusts, they might be able to find his storage ring. I don't know. Xiao So shook her head blankly. Without her own experience, she would not know the result. Forget it. Since things have come to this, let's not think about this anymore. Jun Lingxuan sighed. He did not expect the outcome to be like this. He had thought that he would be able to gain a lot this time. However, in the end, it was all for naught. He even ended up being laughed at by others. One could imagine how depressed he was. Why don't we take this opportunity to leave? Chapter 4994. Jun Lingxuan naturally understood what Xiao So meant. Given their current situation, it was indeed extremely dangerous. Once the cultivators of the D family took action, they did not know if they would be a match for them. Elder sister, you don't have to worry too much now. Xiao Sudong could not help but say, there are so many cultivators here. In my opinion, they won't dare to take action easily. After all, once they take action, even if they win, their strength will be greatly reduced. If other cultivators take the opportunity to take action, I'm afraid they won't be able to handle it. Xiao Sudong's gaze was firm. The more people there were, the safer they would be. If there were only a few cultivators around, they would have no hope at all. As Xiao Sudong's voice fell, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao So looked at each other with a strange light in their eyes. Indeed, when they thought about it this way, the situation was not so dangerous. At the same time, Di Xiaofeng and the others were also thinking the same thing. Xiaofeng, should we take action now? Lin Taxing looked at Di Xiaofeng and raised his eyebrows inquiringly. As soon as he thought of Jun Lingxuan's previous actions, he wished he could tear him into pieces. Moreover, now that they had finally found them, it was extremely convenient to take action. A trace of hesitation flashed in Di Xiaofeng's eyes when he heard this. He then turned his gaze to Di Beichen. Beichen, what do you think? There are a lot of people around now. With our strength, unless we can suppress them all, once we get into a stalemate, I'm afraid someone will try to take advantage of us. Di Beichen's voice was low, and his hawk-like cold eyes hit a sharp light. He also wanted to take Jun Lingxuan's life, but he also had to take the safety of his family's disciples into consideration. I'm also a little worried about this. Di Xiaofeng's expression was grave. Not to mention the others, the Chu family and the Nangong family will definitely hit us when we are down. After being reminded by the two, Lin Taxing immediately understood. After thinking for a while, he did not feel unhappy. That's not a big deal. There are so many of us, and it's impossible for all of us to take the same path. Once they are separated, it will be our chance to strike. As soon as this was said, Di Xiaofeng and Di Beichen also nodded tacitly. Not bad. After all the cultivators had rested, they turned their attention to the front. After all, thinking about the locusts behind them, no one was willing to go back. Let's set off too. Di Beichen looked at everyone and suggested. Seeing this, everyone stood up one after another. Within the immortal cloud's secret realm, opportunities were everywhere. No one wanted to waste too much time here. In the next moment, everyone got up and set off. At the same time, many teams began to move together. However, the current team was undoubtedly much smaller than before. Compared to the endless yellow sand behind them and the disappearing forest, the lush greenery in front of them undoubtedly gave them a sense of familiarity. Perhaps it was the joy of surviving a calamity, but everyone's footsteps were extremely light. Look, there's a river there. After walking for a while, the view before them suddenly opened up. A river that ran through the forest before them appeared in their line of sight. This river was extremely wide. It was located between the two banks, and it was at least a few hundred meters long. The river water was crystal clear, and the round stones at the bottom could be clearly seen. Hearing the sound of flowing water, everyone's faces could not help but reveal a hint of joy. Chapter 4995. After several days of fleeing, everyone was physically and mentally exhausted. Even though their mental states had recovered after cultivating, the dust on their bodies could not be concealed. Now that they saw the river, the first thought in everyone's mind was to wash up. Almost instantly, many cultivators rushed to the side of the river. The ice-cold river water slapped their cheeks, bringing with it a relaxed and refreshing feeling. The fatigue of the past few days seemed to have disappeared. Smiles blossomed on the faces of the cultivators. Everyone relaxed. This river is really clear. I really want to swim. Come down quickly. It feels really good. Silvery laughter spread by the side of the river, and the haze of the past few days no longer existed. Seeing this river reminds me of the scene when we first went to Penglai Island. Xiren's eyes were filled with emotion. I didn't expect that we've been in the upper realm for so long. I think we were really frogs at the bottom of a well back then. Yes. Shengguan Yingying nodded. Back then, we thought that Penglai Island was the most powerful place, but we didn't expect that there would always be someone better. I'm thinking that after a while, when all the problems are solved, we'll make a trip back to the lower realm. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching and the others. They had been out for a long time. They had not gone back for so long. Her parents must be very worried about them. If there was a chance to bring them back to the upper realm, it would undoubtedly be the best. Hearing this, Bewitching nodded slightly. Whenever you want to go back, we'll go back. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. All right. However, just as they were chatting happily, a scream suddenly came from the river. The shrill scream was filled with shock and horror, and it immediately attracted everyone's attention. In their line of sight, the clear surface of the lake was stained with a trace of blood. Upon closer inspection, they realized that the cultivator who had swam to the middle of the river was struggling in the water. The scream came from him. At the same time, a few more screams were heard. These people were in the middle of the river. The clear surface of the lake was stained red with blood, and it was eerie and terrifying. What's going on? Why are they suddenly like this? Everyone looked. There seems to be something in the river. Everyone turned their eyes to the bottom of the river, wanting to know what was going on. After careful observation, some people found some clues. Are there fish in the river? These fishes are actually so powerful that they can't resist. When everyone saw the fish swimming in the river, their hearts were filled with indescribable shock. The fish was transparent, and it was hard to see it with the naked eye in the clear river water. If it wasn't for the fact that everyone had noticed the clues, they wouldn't have noticed it at all. However, it was this school of fish that even starlight-grade cultivators were unable to deal with. It was simply too shocking. In the blink of an eye, 3 cultivators were already buried in the fish's stomach. Everyone stared blankly at this scene and felt an inexplicable chill run down their spines. No one would have thought that this seemingly tranquil river was actually surging with waves, filled with endless danger. The person who was still smiling a second ago was no longer there in the next second. Chapter 4996. From the moment the army of locusts had appeared, many things had gone beyond their understanding. Whether it was the shoals of fish in the river or the large swarm of locusts, they had never encountered anything like this before. The immortal cloud mystery realm has existed for a long time, but I've never heard of such a thing. Yes, I've never heard of such danger in the immortal cloud mystery realm. Or did the cultivators in the past not encounter it? If they haven't, then aren't we a little too lucky? The crowd stood in a daze as countless thoughts flashed through their minds. One situation after another made them feel incomparably astonished and deeply powerless. Usually, everyone felt that their strength was extremely outstanding. Even if they entered the immortal cloud mystery realm, unless they encountered an opponent of similar strength, it was impossible to endanger their lives under normal circumstances. But now, all they could do was to keep running. There must be something wrong with these shoals of fish. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, which were as still as an ancient well, flashed with a doubtful and serious light. Could it be that cultivators are unable to use their yuan power after entering the river? Otherwise, no matter what, there would at least be yuan power fluctuations. That was the instinct of a cultivator. Based on the previous situation, there was obviously no such thing. That is indeed possible. Bewitching raised his handsome eyebrows as a complicated light rippled across his handsome face. Based on the current situation, they seemed to have fallen into a strange trap. However, no matter how much he thought about it, he could not figure out who had set this trap. From the moment they had been chased by the army of locusts, there had been no possibility of escaping. The only way was to continue moving forward. Why don't we go to the river and check it out? We have to find out what's so strange about these shoals of fish. Lin Taxing had a thoughtful look on his face. We can't stay in this area forever. Once the time is up and we can't return, we'll have to stay here forever. No matter how strange the previous situation was, as a cultivator, life and death were commonplace. Therefore, Lin Taxing regained his senses after a brief moment of shock. However, at a time like this, even more cultivators were in a state of shock and confusion. It was because of this unknown that everyone felt even more uncertain. Almost everyone immediately distanced themselves from the river. The river that had seemed so beautiful to them before had now become a terrifying river filled with danger. Let's go take a look. Bewitching quickly regained his senses. He nodded and approached the river with Lin Taxing. No matter how terrifying this river was, they had to find a way to leave this place. Sitting here and waiting for death was the worst option. Bailey Hongzhuang also followed. In fact, although this situation made her feel shocked, she didn't feel too surprised. Because, from the very beginning, she felt that it was impossible for the immortal cloud mystery realm to be so peaceful, without any danger at all. It was just that they had not encountered any danger along the way, so everyone was used to this kind of situation. When they encountered danger again, they felt that it was unbearable. In fact, in the world of the Chaos Ring, they were constantly faced with dangers that could appear at any time and any place. Chapter 4997. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others approached the river, a similar figure appeared beside them. Initially, the three of them were somewhat flabbergasted. They did not know who would make the same choice as them at this moment. However, when they saw who it was, they understood what was going on. "You guys have guts," Chen Feng said with a faint smile. Chen Feng's eyes rippled with a faint smile. However, from that gentle and calm voice, one could still feel the friendliness and closeness. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had a good impression of Chen Feng. Initially, they did not have any friendship. However, regardless of whether it was on the deck of the flying magic tool or in the ruins, they had established some friendship. At the very least, they were not a match for him. Bewitching's lips curled up as he asked with a smile, "Aren't you here as well?" Chen Feng's gaze landed on Bewitching, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "I heard that when I wasn't here previously, you guys had a victorious battle." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others naturally reacted. Chen Feng should be talking about the previous confrontation between them and the Jun family. Speaking of which, it could indeed be described as a victorious battle. "It's all right. It can only be considered as a half victory," Bewitching said with a faint smile. Chen Feng looked at Bewitching meaningfully and said with a smile, "That makes sense." As for the remaining half, it could only be considered a true victory after they eliminated all the cultivators of the Jun family in one fell swoop. Regarding this matter, what do you guys think? Chen Feng sized up the other teams. Obviously, a lot of cultivators were currently filled with repulsion and resistance towards this river. They were not willing to come near this river at all. We have to figure out why they can't use their origin energy after entering the river. Is it because there's a restriction in the river? Or is there something strange with these piranhas? Bewitching's gaze turned toward the calm lake. All the calmness was only on the surface. In reality, a lot of bloody things must have happened below. You're right. Chen Feng nodded. His thoughts were the same as Bewitching's. Only by figuring this out would they be able to think of a proper countermeasure. If we want to figure this out, we have to go into the river and experience it. Bewitching's rose-colored lips curled up, and his ink-black jade-like eyes revealed an inquisitive look. He didn't feel that this matter was very strange. Just like how the locusts were mysteriously stopped, it wasn't strange that there was a restriction in the river that blocked the use of origin energy. The immortal cloud mystic realm was originally a small world created by the senior. Naturally, whatever the creator wanted to create would be how it would be. It was only because they didn't understand that they were caught off guard. Chen Feng raised his brow, yet a smile appeared on his face. In other words, you are planning to do this as well? Same here. I feel more and more like you now. Chen Feng's smile was somewhat wild and unruly. All along, he had been a man of few words. It wasn't because he didn't like to talk, but because he felt that there weren't many people who shared the same language. Unexpectedly, in this trip to the immortal cloud mystic realm, he met someone who was to his liking. When Xiren and Shangguan Yingying approached, they heard the conversation between Bewitching and Shangguan Yingying. Immediately, intense shock appeared in their eyes. Chapter 4998. Shangguan Yingying's pretty face was filled with astonishment and shock. She had never thought that Bewitching's courage would be so big. At this time, almost all the cultivators hated that they couldn't stay as far away from this river as possible. Bewitching actually wanted to take the initiative to go in. He was simply crazy. Xiren also frowned. Bewitching, this is really too dangerous. He understood the reason why Bewitching did this. However, when he thought of the risk, he still hoped that Bewitching would not go in. I will only be in the periphery and will not go in deep. I will try to understand if there are any restrictions in the river. Bewitching explained, but his gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's body, silently asking. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix-like eyes slightly congealed as she deeply looked at him. I will stand guard beside you. Hearing this, the corners of Bewitching's mouth suddenly rose a little, as beautiful as the queen of the night's epiphyllum. Okay. Bailey Hongzhuang also wanted to figure out what the situation was. Although the risk was not small, they were only in the periphery. A simple attempt would already be able to understand a lot of things. At the same time, several cultivators from the Great Devil sect also came. Obviously, they were Qin Feng's helpers. After making the decision, Bewitching and Qin Feng did not delay and quickly entered the river. They did not want to come into direct contact with the shoals of fish, because even they did not have the confidence to retreat under the attack of the shoals of fish. The best way was to take advantage of the fact that the shoals of fish had not yet reacted and figure out the situation in the river. Bailey Hongzhuang had been following closely beside Bewitching. Her body could not help but enter a state of readiness. As long as there was a trace of danger, she would immediately take action. No matter what, she could not let anything happen to Bewitching. However, after the surrounding cultivators saw that Bewitching and Qin Feng were actually so daring, they were all dumbfounded. However, most of them were silent. Whether it was now or in the Radiant Ruins, the ones leading everyone forward were them. Naturally, there was no need to say much about Qin Feng. He had always been the leader. Even if he rarely spoke, his position in everyone's hearts had always been extremely stable. No one could shake him. However, Bewitching had only appeared in their sight this time. Unknowingly, they actually felt that Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang had become the leaders. But they were not willing to admit it. But, with I didn't expect that this Bewitching's courage is really not small. Before in the ruins, they also found a way out. Xiao Sudong's eyes flickered. In fact, he was also unwilling to admit that Di Beichen was outstanding. But compared to him, Di Beichen was indeed a few levels higher than Jun Lingxuan. Naturally, there was no need to say much about his appearance. Although Jun Lingxuan was also very handsome, Di Beichen's appearance was completely godlike. Even as a man, he could not deny it. As for other aspects, there was no need to say anything more. So far, Jun Lingxuan and Di Beichen had a battle of wits and courage several times. However, the winner was always Di Beichen. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.